So at this point, we have pretty much everything we need. We have a database that stores the users. Oh, somebody else logged in. Josue, that's why, my man, you're logging into my account. That makes a lot more sense. I think we figured out your problem. But thank you for setting up my application. I truly appreciate that. Bless you. It'll actually make this look a lot nicer, Josue. But I apologize for stealing all your info. So here's what we're going to do. As soon as the user logs in, if the user's logged in right here, we also want to grab all the user's friends. So if the user is logged in, let's go get the user's friends. And let's just assume that everyone who's in this app is one of my user's friends. And we can change this later on. But just for the sake of showing you how it's done, let's create a function as soon as, if there is a user in here, we say get users friends. And so this function should go to the database. It should get all the users' friends, and it should display them in the contacts list. Cool? We're probably going to have to write a little bit of CSS for this, but if we do that, we should be Gucci. Cool? So we run this function called getUsersFriends, which we then need to create a little further down. And so I think right below the sign out user, let's find sign out user right here. Here we go, sign out with Google. Let's create a function called getUsersFriends. And the way you get information from the database is, let's console.log, just so we know whenever we're doing this, let's console.log getting the user's friends. So we know what we're doing. Oops. That's why I never put those. Getting the user's friends. And so when we get the user's friends, we should probably do a few things. First, we should make sure that someone is logged in. The way you do that is you say like const user equals auth.currentUser. And if there is a current user, if there's somebody already logged in, it'll store them in a variable called user. Because the current user is attached to the authentication object that we created at the very top of this file, right up here. So if someone logs in, they're stored in this object right up there. That makes it easy. We can just check if someone's logged in like this. And we can say const user ID equals user.uid. And so we're going to use that later. We actually won't need it right now, but we're going to use that later on. What we do want to do is as soon as we load up the application and someone's logged in, we want to go get, let's create a query, const query, and that will be, a query is essentially how we search through the database, is equal to database.collection of the users. So we're saying, hey, database, go open that folder of all your users. Any document in there for a user, open that up. And then I want you to get everybody in it. Get them all. Now we can decide like, hey, I don't want you to get everybody. Get only a certain group of people, and that's fine. But we're not going to do that right now. As soon as we get everybody, then we're going to take a snapshot of the database. What a snapshot is it's essentially saying take a picture of everything in the database. Take a picture of all the documents in the database. Just take one snapshot of the whole database. And I'm going to say if snapshot.size, which means if there's one or more documents in the database, in the collection of users, then we're going to do something with it. We're going to say for each item in the snapshot, snapshot.forEach, and let's say document, for each doc, we want to display the data in the document. So we'll say let user info equals doc.data. And this will grab all the data from the document. And then let's run a function called update the UI with new contact. So for every contact in our list, we're going to run a function called update the UI with new contact. And this one's actually going to be a little funky, but it's going to work. So I'm pretty excited about it, I'll be honest with you. Oh man, we're so close. Can you smell it? Can you smell it? That's an app. I smell an app. It's out there. Or maybe that's my coffee. Yeah, you want me to explain this part again? This part's a little funky. This right here, from line 73 to line 83, that's 10 lines right there, is looking through the database. Essentially what it does is it says, first, it says, hey database, do you have a collection of users? If you do, get them all. Then, after you've got them all, take a snapshot of the whole database. And then, if there is more than one thing in there, if snapshot.size, you could say also if snapshot.size is greater than 0. That's another way to say it. It's the same thing. If there's at least one thing in the snapshot, then loop over every single snapshot. Snapshot.forEach, loop over all the documents in the snapshot. And then grab the data from each document and store it in a variable called user info. And then we pass that user info to this function called update the UI with a new contact. And if you do that, let me show you what happens. Ready for this? In the UI, let's run that function, update UI with new contact. We're going to say function, update UI with new contact, and it's going to take the user info as its one argument here. And so the thing is, what you have to know about this is that we want to put all of the users in that left tab over here. So if you look at this, we want to put all the users right here. To do that, move this over a little bit so you can see it. To do that, we need to put all the users right here. We're going to store the contact list, this unordered list with an ID of contact list. We're going to store it in a variable called contact list. So we'll say const contact list is equal to document.querySelector contact list. And once you've grabbed the contact list, we're going to update its inner HTML. We're going to say contact list.innerHTML plus equals, and then I'm going to use those template strings right here, and I'm going to write a bunch of HTML. Are you ready for this? I'm probably just going to send you this in a second because I'm about to write a ton of crazy stuff. And it might just be easier if I send this to you. Are you ready for this? Yeah. We're going to create a list item for each person, like this. And inside that list item, we're going to have an image. Next to that image, we're going to have a div. Actually, we're going to have two divs here. And inside each of these divs, we're going to have information from each user. So in this one, we're going to have an H6. That is going to store the user's name. And then we're going to have their very first text message right here. And in this div, we're going to have the time. So I'm just going to put in like 3:33 p.m. Or let's just say 3 p.m. here, because that's when you all get out, and you're so excited for it. I can see it in your eyes. Yes. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put a bunch of information in here that is going to add each of the users to this contact list right there. To do that, I'm going to say first, in this list item, I'm going to say as soon as you click it on click, we're going to run a function called display texts from, and we're going to pass in the user ID right there. This will run a function whenever you click on that person. So we're going to say userinfo.id. And that will make sure that anytime we click on them, it'll display their text messages in the main screen. We're also going to give it a class equals contact-item and avatar. Then this image right here, we're going to give it a source equal to whatever the user's image is, which we called user info dot, what did I store them in? Right here I said dot photo URL. Cool. User info dot photo URL. And then let's give it a class equals circle, so it's a circle, and avatar image, the same as what we named our other one. And then this div, let's give it a class equals contact name and text, because that's what it is. And this h6 will give a class of title. So I'm just like writing all the HTML that's going to go inside it. And we'll say that this will be the user info dot name. So whatever the name is, it'll go right here. And then this one will have a class equals gray text. I think it might be with an E. Gray text. Gray text and first text message. So the last text message they sent us, let's call this last text message. Whatever the last text message they sent us, it's going to appear right here. And that's kind of what all messaging apps do. And then we'll put the userinfo.text. Well, actually, you know what? Let's just leave that blank for now. Let's put a fake one in there. We'll say like fake, this is a fake text with some dots. Then we'll call this one class equals contact timestamp. And we'll give this P a class of gray text also. And if we do this, what's cool about this is that every time we have a new user info, anytime we go grab a user from the database, it'll take this whole thing and it'll update the user info, all their user info, into this section right here. Now it's going to look really ugly when we first do this, and then we're going to write a little bit of style. It's going to make it look much, much nicer. Now when we first do this, it's going to look really ugly. So when we come back over here, oh, look at that. Actually, they're already appearing on mine. Notice that like each of my users now appears right here, but it also does one of these things where it overflows in the Y direction. And that just like doesn't look very nice, does it? It's also right up against the side, so I need to get some styles in there pronto, ASAP. So I'm going to head into my style.css, and I'm going to add some styles in there also. And that's actually going to make this look so much nicer. You ready? I'm actually going to send you all this in a second too, but let me just make sure you know exactly what it is. So really the 4 things you need to do, you add just a little bit of style here. We're going to say underneath conversation content, or actually right above, we'll just put it right, yeah, let's put it above conversation. We'll put it below avatar image. Actually, no, this goes in the left part, so let's put it right here. We'll say dot contact item should display flex, have a padding of 5 pixels and 18 pixels, have a margin right of 10 pixels, have a cursor of pointer, and then justify content, space between. So we're using a little flex box there. And let's also make sure that when we hover over it, it looks nice. So we'll say dot contact item hover. So whenever you hover over it, let's change its background color to that same color we use for everything. F1, F3, F4. I'm just going to make that one line because it's easier. Save a little space here. And then let's also make sure that all the images inside our contact item have a margin right of 10 pixels. And all the contact item dot contact name and text. Actually, we can just say contact name and text. We don't even need that part. Should have a flex of 3. And the contact timestamp should have a flex of 1. And a margin top of -8 pixels. So it pulls it up a little bit. And if we do this and we look back at our stuff again, it now looks like this, which is way, way nicer. You notice that? And to make sure that it doesn't overflow like it's doing right now when I do this, we can add a little more style right at the top. So at the very top of our page, we'll say we want the body to have a let's just change that height. Let's just say height of 100%. Actually, let's keep the min height. Let's just say height of 100%. And it should overflow auto. And then the HTML right here should overflow hidden and also have a height of 100%. Woo! Now that's a lot of stuff. If you do this though, and you make sure that the entire sidebar has an overflow, or like that side header section has an overflow Y, like the contacts, where's my contacts section? Contacts, let me put it right here. Do I have my contacts yet? No, I don't have it. So one more thing, just make sure that the contacts right above this, dot contacts, have an overflow Y of scroll, which will allow us to scroll up and down if we have lots of users. And it should have a flex of 1. And this will actually pretty much finish up our app. That's almost everything you need. And I'm going to copy and paste this all into Slack for you. But just really quickly, if you look now when you scroll up and down, nothing changes. And if you click on each user, you'll see that they're actually logged right here. Oh, I didn't have display text from. Let's just do that. In my UI, I'll have one called function display texts from the user ID. And usually I would just display the text, but I feel like this is a good time to wrap it up. So all I'm going to have this do right here is just console.log displaying texts from the user ID. And so now, as soon as I click on each person right here, it'll display the person that I'm going to display text from. And so then all I would really need to do to finish this app is to put those text messages right here every time a user has texts. And when I write stuff in there and send it off, it just updates the database instead of just updating the user interface. And that's it. That's as much as I can really give you in like a day and an hour. So that was a ton. I want to give you all this code so you can see it in action. But if you know how to both send data to a database and query data from a database, at the end of the day, that's actually all you really need. There's nothing else you need to do in an application, is send data to a database, get data from a database, and display it on your screen. So nicely done. If you need anything from me, let me know. I will send this code out to everybody. But absolutely. That'll be, yeah, let's do it.